Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon News Update for December 17th, 2024. First, today we will go to floodlit.org, where it says, KUTV, a television station in Salt Lake City, Utah, United States, affiliated with CBS, altered a news headline and article text to remove Mormon church references 3 hours after reporting on an LDS Youth Temple Prep instructor and mission leader charged with multiple felonies stemming from an undercover police sting operation. The first headline said, Utah mission leader, Temple Prep instructor charged with numerous child S crimes. The second headline said, church youth instructor charged with arranging to meet 13-year-old for S in Lehi. And the headline today, Salt Lake County man charged with arranging to meet 13-year-old for S in Lehi. Now let's go to the article from KUTV, keeping in mind that this person they're talking about is an LDS Youth Temple Prep instructor and mission leader. A Salt Lake County man was arrested after police said he arranged to meet an officer who was posing as a 13-year-old girl. Paul Spencer, 54, was arrested on Thursday, December 10th, after a days-long undercover investigation ended when he traveled to Utah County to engage in acts with someone who he believed to be a teenage girl. Police documents stated this investigation began on December 4th when an undercover Utah County Sheriff's Office detective posing as a 13-year-old girl on a social media platform was contacted by Spencer, who identified himself as Kevin. On December 6th, Spencer was advised he was chatting with a junior high student, to which he replied, "It's okay." Spencer was sent photos of the alleged child and highly complimented her looks before making explicit statements about her. He expressed via text that he is married, understood he should not be chatting with a minor, and his fear of going to jail. The messages between Spencer and who he believed to be the young girl went on for several more days. On December 9th, arrangements were made for Spencer to meet up with the girl in Lehi after she got out of school. Spencer arrived at the meeting location in his truck on December 10th. After driving through the parking lot of the meet location, he exited and began heading toward Lehi Junior High in what appeared to be an attempt to find her. The detective then messaged Spencer as the child, and he immediately pulled into a driveway to turn around, replying with a text that read, "I'm almost there." At that point, detectives made contact and took Spencer into custody. During an interview with Utah County authorities, Spencer was adamant that he was turning around because he changed his mind about meeting with the child, and admitted he knew what he was doing was wrong. Officials asked the courts to hold Spencer without bail because during the arrest he told them he works with boys and girls between the age of 15 and 17 years old in a church setting. Spencer was booked into the Utah County Jail and charged with multiple counts, including felony attempted essay of a child and enticing a minor using the internet. Now let's watch a quick video clip of that one time that Satan visited the Cache Valley Mall in Logan, Utah.
This is the Herald Journey, Logan, Utah. It looks like a holiday advertisement. It says here, "Hey kids, grab your parents and come to Cache Valley Mall for Satan's arrival." What?
And next we will go to the church newsroom, where it says, hundreds of missionaries in training and their leaders were treated to a concert of Christmas songs at the Provo Missionary Training Center on Monday, December 9th. With sparkling Christmas trees on the stage, a combination of training missionaries and professional singers drew from hymns and the Strive to Be and Songs of Devotion albums from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Elder Cadmiel Lopez from Spokane, Washington, who is assigned to the Brazil Sao Paulo East mission, had never performed for such a big group before. I am super happy for this opportunity to share my talents with these other missionaries, to hopefully inspire them and increase their desire to serve the Lord, he said. One of the greatest ways to share the gospel is through music. During the event, the missionaries were shown how to find the albums in the Sacred Music app or Gospel Library app by navigating to the Youth and Contemporary section, Music for Everyday Listening, and Hymns for Home and Church. The missionaries were encouraged to not only continue to listen to such music themselves, but also to ensure that those whom they serve are aware of it and how to find it. The church has found that Latter-day Saints around the world are connecting with music, and many who are not members of the church are listening to it as well. In the last year, there were over 10.7 million unique listeners on Strive to Be's Spotify channel since the release of the 2023 album, 6.3 million of those coming in 2024. Countries with the most listeners are the US, Brazil, Philippines, India, and Germany, some with more listeners than there are church members in that country. I love it when the church gives tiny little glimpses into the fact that they know exactly how many members there are and how many are listening to their music, and that the number of people listening to the music is more than the number of members they've been able to secure. How wonderful. Now let's go to the ex-Mormon community on Reddit, where one person said, "I got this flyer on my door the day after receiving a text about this ward party. The text mentioned the ward name and everything, but then this flyer makes a very obvious point to hide anything to do with the church, choosing to call it a neighborhood party. Typical Mormons hiding the truth." Raise your hand if you've seen this sort of thing on social media, where members or missionaries of the Mormon Church try to solicit people to their activities without mentioning the church name anywhere in their posts. It's happening quite a bit. Now we will go to Latter-day Saint Mag for a quick update about some temples. The First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has released exterior renderings for 5 new temples, offering a first look at the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania Temple, Jacksonville, Florida Temple, Mexico City, Benemerito, Mexico Temple, Springfield, Missouri Temple, and the Winchester, Virginia Temple. President Russell M. Nelson announced the 5 new houses of the Lord in a general conference setting in either 2022 or 2023. The renderings were first published Monday, December 16th on churchofjesuschrist.org. More information for the temples, such as groundbreaking and open house dates for each, will be released later. Every effort is made to construct temples in an expeditious manner. At times, various reasons may delay a temple's completion and dedication. It's been a while since we've read anything from the Salt Lake Tribune, so let's go there now for an article that says, when Sharon Haney signed on to teach early morning seminary almost 30 years ago, the volunteer instructor expected the pre-dawn rousings, the many lesson preps, and struggles to elicit thoughtful responses from sleepy students. What she didn't anticipate? The hit to her bank account. Haney, who lives in rural South Central Colorado, has taught the weekday classes for high schoolers in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints since 1997. During that time, she estimates she has spent thousands of dollars, roughly $40 a month in recent school years, of her own money, much of it on standard classroom materials. The seminary superfan is not complaining. The sacrifice is worth it, Haney said, and one she can afford. She realizes, however, that that's not the case for everyone. Do remember, dear listeners, that this person is likely also paying 10% of their income to the church. More than a decade ago, she and a fellow early morning seminary teacher, Jenny Smith, launched a Facebook group for instructors. Surprise over the cost of the calling is a regular topic, Smith said, in the 19,000 member community, especially among its newer members. Early morning seminary is, Smith, who lives in Virginia, said, an expensive calling. Curious as to how much of the program's financial burden teachers were shouldering, she sent a survey to members of the Facebook group in 2020. The questionnaire amassed 155 respondents, the majority from within the United States. Results showed that they spent an average of $243 a school year. Smith then asked respondents to rate their difficulty level paying for seminary expenses. From 1, no difficulty, to 10, extreme difficulty. Nearly 40% selected a 5 or higher. These findings worried Smith, who spent the next 4 years trying to raise awareness of the issue with the church educational system and other Latter-day Saint leaders. After all, she reasoned, the global faith, with a piggy bank worth hundreds of billions, has the money. She's right, they absolutely do. When asked about the study's findings, church spokesperson Sam Penrod stated that CES, headquartered in Salt Lake City and responsible for overseeing the seminary program, is grateful to those members of the church who accept a volunteer calling as a seminary instructor to teach the gospel and influence the youth of the church. CES, he added, provides the manuals and materials for students and teachers. That's true, those interviewed said, if you don't mind having a strictly lecture-based class in which students are on their phones accessing the scriptures and other materials digitally. The problem, current and former teachers interviewed for this story agreed, is that this is not an ideal setup for drowsy teens, some of whom don't have a smartphone, to study the Book of Mormon at the crack of dawn. The biggest expenditure teachers surveyed cited was supplies. Many early morning teachers hold classes in their homes. That means finding ways to outfit a living room as a classroom each day with whiteboards, clipboards, and audiovisual equipment. Those who teach at a nearby meeting house typically have a few more resources, a chalkboard and a TV, but run into commuting costs, particularly for those living in rural and sparsely populated areas. Poster boards, colored pencils, candy prizes, items for object lessons, journals for students to record their thoughts, an activity the manual suggests often. These all add up, particularly for those with larger classes. Shauna Hostetler, who taught seminary in West Palm Beach, Florida from 2012 to 2020, estimates she easily spent $1,000 a year for classes of 15 to 30 students. A top expense was paper and ink, a point echoed by other instructors. Latter-day Saints are accustomed to cracking open their wallets to contribute to church activities and programs, a function of the volunteer approach that pervades a church run by a lay ministry. At this point, I want to remind you that the top leaders in the church do get a very generous stipend. They aren't paying out of pocket for any of the same things that these seminary teachers are. Seminary does not represent a standard line item in ward, congregational, and stake regional budgets. Haney estimates that about 75% of the Facebook group's members are women, who she fears might hesitate to ask their all-male leadership for money out of fear of making waves. Finally, for Smith, budget standardization is also a matter of equity. Your child's seminary experience, she said, should not depend on how wealthy their teacher is. Easing the financial burden on early morning seminary teachers trying to liven up their lessons and keep students engaged begins, Smith argues in her study, with engaging stake leadership to create a greater sense of ownership over the seminary classes and their costs in their areas. She also recommends a larger CES budget based on a per-student rather than per-class basis, plus annual startup money to cover consumable expenses like printer paper, cardstock, and markers, plus funds for permanent classroom items such as whiteboards, televisions, laptops, and digital projectors. This is a high school course, Hostetler stressed, and we teach at that level. In the meantime, Haney said early morning seminary teachers will keep doing what they've always done: sacrifice time, sleep, and yes, money to give their students the best possible experience. We do this because we love the kids and the gospel, she said, and we want to help grow their testimonies. And today, let's finish up with this great quote that I think applies to the church. It says, "The real reason narcissistic and psychopathic individuals want you to let things go and not hold on to the past is because the past holds valuable information about their patterns that could ground you in the reality of their abuse and help you detach from them. They want to gaslight you by framing your discernment of their patterns as a character flaw or an inability to forgive. In reality, your inability to let things go can save your life and save you from a lifetime's worth of trauma. They are not the arbiter of how you process their mistreatment, nor do you owe anyone forgiveness for harming you. If they didn't want you bringing up the past, they shouldn't have repeated it in the first place." And that's your update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.